community in terms of feedback to give direction on where we go with transportation funding. I've been very successful in that. I'm looking forward to bringing that experience to the city. Also, small cities in Virginia, a lot of them have limited resources. We need to make sure we make investments to maximize community benefit with those limited resources. We need creative solutions. We need to look for additional opportunities to go after non-local revenues, state grants, city grants, national grants, to really stretch our local revenue dollars to do more within the city. I see a lot of opportunities for improvements in the public realm and the public streetscape to make our streets safer and more accommodating to all users of our transportation system. And then finally, I really want to focus on collaboration, both improved collaboration between our city and our neighbors at Augusta County and Waynesboro. I see lots of opportunities to do more regional services, to expand city services at a reduced cost. But not only that, but more public and private partnerships to both expand business opportunities in the city and again, increase revenue and doing additional investments to maximize quality of life for our residents. It's hard to believe that we're just over a week away from the start of early voting. The feedback I've received on the campaign trail so far has been tremendous, and I can't thank my supporters enough. I'm very excited for the next few weeks to see us that we reach the finish line with success for November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam Campbell. While we're waiting for the audience-submitted questions to be gathered up here, I'm going to go ahead and start with one of my own questions. This first question is going to be for all of the state-level candidates. And we're going to start with Kathy Beery on this one, but we will go to each of the state-level candidates in order to answer this one. Virginia is a right-to-work state. Advocates for this policy claim it allows businesses to run without government interference. Critics say it takes power away from workers. What is your stance on Virginia's status as a right-to-work state? Kathy Beery, you first.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious considering that I just helped HEA. I didn't do the whole thing. I got the ball rolling to be able to have collective bargaining. Right to work doesn't work. It gives an unfair advantage to most employers. And not all employers, but right to work in general leads to exploitation of workers. And I would work very hard to repeal right to work in Virginia.
Thank you, Kathy Beery. Jade Harris?
Right to work is a Jim Crow era piece of policy designed to keep down workers and their families so that corporations may benefit and take everything that they can out of them and their labor. Day one, I would vote to kill right to work in Virginia, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade Harris. Joshua Huffman?
Well, I can see from the previous replies, the reaction to this previous replies, how most of the audience is thinking, which doesn't surprise me. But I would, unlike my Democratic opponent, I actually do support right to work. I don't believe that anyone, if people want to join unions, that's perfectly fine. I think unions do serve a good purpose, but I don't think union membership should be a condition for employment at any level. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua Huffman. Randall Wolf.
I'd repeal right to work right away if we had the votes. There's plenty of stats that show that unions provide real benefits to the workers and increase workers that aren't members of unions' benefits as well. Unions in general make about 15% more in wages and more benefits. If you're a woman, that's 23% more in wages. If you're Black, it's 20% more in wages due to being a union member. And if you're Hispanic, it's 30% more in wages. So there's real benefits to being a member of a union as a worker. 2 years ago, as I was out campaigning, I learned about 42-day schedules at Hershey in Stewart's Draft. And I learned that the workers there were attempting to unionize. And I started to talk to people about that, including Cindy, and if you remember Evan Church, who both of them really jumped in to help that union try to get over that hump. And we can't have people with families scheduled to work 42 days in a row. That's ridiculous. We need unions to protect workers' rights, and it's just that simple. Right to work's got to go.
Thank you so much, Randall Wolf. I'm going to give a question for Adam Campbell. This is from me specifically. Do you believe that Staunton is currently accessible to people with disabilities? As a counselor, is there anything you would change to make the infrastructure more accessible?
There's a lot we could do to improve accessibility around Staunton. There definitely is improvements that the city has done over the past couple of years to help that area, but there's so much more we can do. The actual percentage of ADA curb ramps in the city that are compliant is probably like 1%. There's so many more opportunities to do at our signalized intersections, more pedestrian, audible pedestrian crosswalks to help with that. Now, granted, we do face some challenges from topography in this city, but there are certainly plenty of opportunities to improve accessibility for all users and make better connections for non-motorized travel within the city as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adam Campbell. Moving on to audience-submitted questions. This first one is for all of our state-level candidates. Actually, all of our candidates. Hold on. Yeah, all of our candidates, my apologies. And just so you know, you will be given the opportunity, if need be, to ask a clarifying question. In case you need to do that, the person who submitted this is Beth Daisy. We're going to start with Randall Wolf on this one. If your voting district received a $25 million windfall out of the current Virginia budget surplus with the designation that it must be spent on public education starting on July 1st, 2024, how and where would you, as a newly elected VA state legislature or city council officer, choose to spend this public education windfall within your voting area? Starting with Randall Wolf.
That was 25 million?
Yeah.
Wow. I think one area would be just increasing wages for employees, and not just teachers, but it takes a lot of people to help educate our students. So cafeteria workers and teachers' aides, they can't be forgotten. So that would be one area. I would want to get a lot more counselors into schools. Would be high on my list. I don't think we do enough with that. I would want to see more tech education and, tech education, I think, would be one area. I would want to make free access to community college. I'm not sure whether that would fit into that, but that's high on my list. And pre-K, optional pre-K, so that workers that have either a single parent or parents that both work, their 3- and 4-year-olds would have a place to go for public education. How that would break down to 25 million, I'm not sure, but those would be areas I would certainly be looking at. I'd also look at school security, and that doesn't mean resource officers, that means camera systems, automatic lockdown systems, and things like that that could secure schools in an emergency.
Thank you, Randall Wolf. Joshua Huffman?
Well, I am the product of the Harrisonburg City School Systems. My mother was actually a teacher in the Rockingham County school system for about 30 years. And one area I think that needs to be addressed is teacher pay. I mean, we should be working to recruit the best and keep the best teachers possible. I think that I know when I went through the school system, I had some great teachers. I had some folks that I think would rather be doing something else. But nevertheless, we need good teachers, especially in the area of social studies. I hope no one here is a social studies teacher, but oftentimes we have our coaches teaching that subject. And if we don't have proper civics in our classroom, what sort of citizens does that lead to? And again, I'm a little biased being a political science major, but it is important. We need to learn our history. We need to learn our government. And then another issue that I'd like to see addressed is school buildings. For example, when I was in 5th grade at Waterman Elementary in Harrisonburg, they had constructed a new middle school. And by the time I got to 8th grade, there were trailers there at the middle school. And as I mentioned to some person before this began this evening, I actually had to spend my homeroom in a trailer. The darn thing leaked, and the teacher actually had to put a trash can on my desk to collect rainwater when it rained. And of course, I mentioned this to the Harrisonburg City School System and at one of their meetings, and I was called a liar. But I assure you that is the case. If we don't have proper infrastructure, if we don't have good teachers, then how can we expect our students to succeed? So that I believe is an area we should do better for the students of Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua Huffman. Adam Campbell.
Well, $25 million would be quite the windfall for Staunton City Schools. And I don't want to speak for the school board, but I'm sure they could find plenty of uses based on, I know they're getting ready to undergo a much-needed renovation to improve Shelburne High School, bringing classrooms better up to standard, making it more open to meet the needs of students today in teaching. There's also needs for, I know there's needs for a city bus and maintenance facility in the works. So there's definitely needs in Staunton City Schools. We reworked our funding methodology between school board and schools, school board and city council just a few years ago, and it seems to be working well from everyone I've talked to. But like I said, with being invested in this public school system with my own children and just believing in public education, that will always be a critical pillar for any successful community. You can't grow as a community and attract new families if you don't have a tremendous school system. So that would always be a top priority for me on council.
Thank you, Adam Campbell. Kathy Beery.
Well, in Senate District 2, that runs from Page, Rockingham, Harrisonburg, Bath, Highland, and a large part of Augusta County. 25 million is not going to go real far. But I totally agree. At this point in time, we have to have teachers and staff in the buildings. Retaining teachers in the climate that they have been in, every single district in Virginia is looking for teachers. At the beginning of the year, if you go and look at BDOE or look at several districts, there are teacher vacancies. We have to improve the teacher pay. We are one of the top 10 states in the nation for education and the kids that we are sending out into the world, and we are almost near the bottom in how we fund our teachers and our staffs. So 25 million is not going to do it, but it is a good start.
Thank you, Kathy Beery. And finally, Jade Harris.
So much like Kathy, with the district stretching from Staunton City all the way down to Roanoke County, $25 million is not quite enough, but I'm used to making money stretch. So some of the things that I would do, first and foremost, getting some mental health care professionals in the school systems. We shouldn't be just focusing on metal detectors and school resource officers to meet gunmen at the door. Much of the time that assaults on schools happen, it's students, it's former students who feel ostracized, who aren't having their mental health care taken care of. With a mental health care professional in each school system, you can ensure that it never gets to that point in the first place. Prevention is worth an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure always. Second of all, we need to make sure we're funding teachers. We need to make sure that we're attracting the best and the brightest teachers to teach our students because they are Virginia's future. And third, this is something very near and dear to me as an author. Most Americans, so over 50% of Americans, read at or below a 6th grade reading level. That's atrocious. We need to put some critical funding into reading and writing programs in our school systems. And $25 million isn't a lot for that purpose, but I can make it work. We can make it work together. We'll find a way to make it work. Let's put it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade Harris. This next question is an audience-submitted question for Adam Campbell. This comes from Brenda Mead. What are your budget priorities for the city of Staunton?
This past spring, the city just went through a budget process where it was a significant tax rate increase based on the assessment value. That brought out a lot of interest from folks, both support of it and just folks saying that they thought the real estate tax was too low. I'm not in favor of high taxes. I'm not in favor of low taxes. I'm in favor of an appropriate real estate tax rate based on the information and needs at hand. My approach to the city budget, fortunately, we have a city manager that's her specialty. She knows the budget process. So when they come forth and present a budget, I want to take their word. And if anyone takes the time to actually look at the budget, you'll see that there's not really anything you can take out of there. You're starting to lose critical city services. It's also worth noting that the current budget that we adopted this year didn't even include what is necessary for the new juvenile and domestic relations courts that's going to be under construction over the next year or two. So when you take into account all of our city needs, and look at not only the needs today, but the needs we have in the future, especially from infrastructure. Take one look at the city's capital improvement plan. There's no way, I don't think you can argue that they did not make the right choice with the current budget as presented, and that's how I will approach the city budget moving forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam Campbell. This next question is submitted to both of our Senate District 2 candidates, Kathy Beery and Joshua Huffman. Joshua, we're going to start with you. This is from Linda Revis. How do you plan to reach rural red voters other than postcards and yard signs?
Well, that's a good question. We've had the same state senator for 20 years, and it is difficult. A lot of our district is fairly rural, and going there and not going door to door in every house in the district, I'm not going to pretend I'm going to do that because I don't think there's enough hours in the day. But an important thing, I guess a strategy that I'm employing is, of course, coming to as many events as possible. I'm here with you all this evening. Last month I was actually speaking to the Virginia Progressives. And of course, they aren't red, I wouldn't call those red state, but nevertheless. The trick to me is showing up, getting your voice out in front of as many people as you can. Sure, yeah, if I believe with no disrespect to my Democratic opponent, that if left to their own devices, most people will vote Republican because they don't know that there are other options out there. And frankly, there are better options out there. So tomorrow, for example, I'll be meeting with folks from The Breeze, which is James Madison University's news outlet. Look forward to seeing what the questions they have for me there. But I guess, yes, a big part of it is, you know, because of course, again, some of you agree with some of the things I will say tonight, some of you won't, but not making it just, oh, the old Republican Democratic system. We have to find someone who can, you know, on some issues appeal to people on the left and people on the right. And we can't just say, oh, well, the district's going to go for the Republican just because it has for, you know, as long as we can remember. So yeah, that's what I would do. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua Huffman. Kathy Beery.
Well, as you all know, and Josh alluded to, is the fact that if you look at it on paper, District 2 is really red. However, one of the ways to reach people is to talk to them. I've been to lots of fairs, I've been to lots of events. Again, Joshua's already said, you have to have conversations with people. And this is where the problem lies, is that we aren't having the conversations that we need to have across the table. We've always disagreed. I mean, you know, from the beginning of our country, we've always disagreed. So to get the word out in the rural areas, a couple things that I'm hoping to get done is to have some targeted radio ads. Most everybody listens to the radio in the car or whatever. And the points that I would like to be able to make is to look at what has been done. Do you support the things that Mark Obenshane has supported? If not, look at somebody else. There are choices this time. Mark has run unopposed way too often. And we have to get people to take a look and not just vote because of an R or a D or an I or whatever. We need to get them to look at who's running. We're in the communities together. We're going to end up speaking to each other or somebody's brother, cousin, whoever, who may disagree with us, and they haven't looked in a long time. Obviously, Mark has been going back for a very, very long time, and I don't know that people have really paid attention to what he's voted for or not voted for, which is much more important to pay attention to.
Thank you, Kathy Beery. This next question is from is for Jade Harris and Randall Wolf. We're going to start with Randall Wolf. It's from Brenda Mead. What are your top 3 budget priorities for Virginia?
Education's got to come first. It's all about the future. So education, mental health care is right there with that. We just don't do enough for mental health care in Virginia. From crisis to long-term, as been mentioned in schools, there's so much work to be done with mental health care. You know, and another thing that I don't really want to spend a lot of money on, but I think we need to, is I-81, which I just found out today was cut out of the budget. There was millions or billions of dollars in the budget up until just a day or two ago that got cut out for expanding some lanes on I-81. So, you know, I-81 is right there. But mental health care, there's so many layers to that. I propose a new leg for first responders that are crisis caregivers. And we need long-term, short-term care. We don't have it in the area, and we just need to get that funded. So.
Thank you, Randall Wolf. Jade Harris.
You know, when you have a House district that's enveloped by, well, you know, the Senate district, you have some of the same priorities. So it was really a coin toss with that one, who was going to go first and say everything the other one wanted to say. But first and foremost, public education. Jay Lark just found that we are underfunding Virginia's public school systems by millions and millions of dollars. We need to rectify that stat. Number 2, mental health care access. We don't have enough qualified staff at our treatment centers. We don't have the funding for our treatment centers to have enough beds for the people that need them. We're sending people back onto the streets who are undergoing mental health care crises, and there's nothing that can be done, seemingly, because our legislators in Richmond won't just do the work that's needed. And third, again, infrastructure, specifically I-81. I-81 is going to take a whole lot of money to fix, and we need somebody that actually cares about fixing it. When you can coast by and get votes no matter what, you're not going to be concerned about fixing the real issues. You're not being challenged. You don't have to work for it. We need somebody that has to work for it, somebody that cares about delivering to their constituents and making sure that I-81, which carries 45% of Virginia's industrial traffic, our, the groceries that come to your grocery store, the supplies that come to all of our tradespeople. We need to make sure that that vital interstate is not only safe for cars, but isn't being backed up all the time, isn't killing people left and right. I-81 has been a disaster for decades, and we're doing nothing about it. Why is that? Because the Republicans have been in office and they don't have to do anything. We got to challenge them and make sure, hey, you need to start delivering for your people, otherwise they're not going to deliver for you anymore.
Thank you, Jade Harris. This next question is for all of our candidates. It comes from Phil Menez. I apologize if I mispronounce any of these names, by the way. We're going to start with Adam Campbell. What is your position on gun control?
This is not a huge city issue because, as Dillon will state, we can't make decisions that the state doesn't do. But I'm a gun owner. I support the right to bear arms, but I do feel like we need additional, way more funding in terms of education and learning for everyone to how to appropriately handle and store firearms. So that's my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam Campbell. Kathy Beery.
I'm also a gun owner. However, there is nothing that says that we shouldn't have some regulations about our guns. They need to be very common sense. It is not that irresponsible or burdensome to ask somebody to have a background check or to have some laws about where you can carry your guns and where you cannot. This rhetoric that has happened over the years is just, it just doesn't even make sense. Very quickly, I want to go back to, as some folks would say, we're going to go back to another time. Even in the Wild West, when you walked into town, you had to leave your guns in the sheriff's office. This is just so out of control. And then the kinds of weapons that we're looking at are so different. There have to be some reasonable controls on our guns.
Thank you, Kathy Beery. Jade Harris.
I like to describe myself as a pragmatist. We're not going to get anywhere by continuing discussions about banning guns, about limiting gun ownership. What we really need to focus on is limiting the amount of deaths that occur from gun violence, from mishandling of guns, from children as young as 2-year-olds getting into their parents' weapons and harming themselves, their siblings, their parents. To do that, we need to focus on solutions such as gun safety education, both at the school level, so starting in middle school and high school, and at the parental level, making sure that parents know to keep their weapons locked up, away from where their children can find them, and ensuring that we do have stricter ramifications for when a parent doesn't choose to lock their weapon up and their small child can get their hands on it. That's out of control. Most gun deaths come from handguns, from unsecured handguns, or from handgun violence. The rhetoric is focused on AR-15s, and they are weapons of mass destruction. I describe them as such. But we also need to focus on the vast majority of handgun deaths that are occurring in our nation and in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade Harris. Joshua Huffman.
I guess I'd like to preface this by saying last year my father passed away, and of course in the process we were going through his possessions, as one does, and found an astounding amount of guns and ammo. I don't know what he was saving up for. I'm glad whatever it is never happened. But nevertheless, I would say, and again, I'm not going to tailor my response to a specific audience and say one thing and then say something else to somebody else, because I feel like that sort of disingenuous politics is not helpful in this country. But I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, and as I guess the Virginia Citizens Defense League survey will be coming out any time now. So in general, I support anyone who does not present themselves as a danger to themselves or anyone else. I certainly support responsible gun ownership, and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joshua Huffman. Randall Wolf.
So my opponent, Delegate Campbell, says that it's a God-given right to bear arms. I'm not sure what verse of Bible that is or anything, but I don't agree. Virginians in 2022 spent $288 million due to gun violence. Congressman Klein's district has 64% higher guns or suicides than the national average, and it's one of the worst congressional districts in Virginia. We need to confront this on many layers. Primarily, it's mental health care. We do need more money going to law enforcement. We need to secure our schools. We need gun buyback programs. And we need to support victims of gun violence. My approach is I want to bring in a 30% excise tax on the sale of all guns and ammunition. So a lot of us, we can agree, we can talk to Republicans and agree on a lot of those solutions, but nobody wants to fund it. That's how I want to fund it. I am not opposed to hunters at all, so I would have a tax-free weekend like we do for school students, so that hunters could buy a new shotgun, a new hunting rifle, not an assault-style weapon, not a handgun. They could buy a limited amount of ammunition tax-free. We need the funding to confront this, to really bring those solutions to make an impact. We do this with cigarettes and alcohol. Right now, Virginia is number 7th in gun sales, while we're 12th in population. A lot of our guns head north and cause trouble in Philadelphia, Baltimore, and other places. So this excise tax would also eliminate that situation.
Thank you, Randall Wolf. This next one is for Joshua Huffman. You've been a vocal critic of the two-party system. Are there any specific electoral reforms that you would support to allow for greater inclusion of third parties?
Well, this is a question that seems to be tailor-made for my campaign. Absolutely. And of course, the first issue is ballot access reform. Any candidate who wants to run for office, regardless of political party, should have the exact same requirements as any other candidate. Another issue where, and actually, this is actually one that Senator Obenshain brought up back in his earlier days before he became what he is today, is ending subsidies for political parties. I don't know if you all know it. Well, of course, I know you all know it. That, of course, in Virginia, both the Republican and the Democratic Party can hold primaries that are paid for by the taxpayer. And at the time, he said, well, why don't we have the political parties pay for that? And I think that's a great idea. Furthermore, say, for example, the Libertarian Party. We are actually not a recognized political party in the state of Virginia. In order to be a recognized political party, you must get 10% of the vote in a statewide, one of the last 2 statewide elections. Curiously, I don't know if you know, the law used to say you had to get 10% in the last election. But if you may remember, many years ago, John Warner, our longtime senator, ran unopposed as a Republican. And at that point, we actually had only one recognized political party in this state, that being the Republican Party. Of course, the Democratic Party controlled the General Assembly, so they quickly changed the law so that they would still be recognized as a political party. But I believe that if we enact these reforms, we will have more choices. Again, there's nothing wrong with being a Republican. There's nothing wrong with being a Democrat. But then again, there's nothing wrong with being a Libertarian. There's nothing wrong with being a Green. And we have such a variety of voices in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. Why limit ourselves? I think if we could come together and have more choices, then it would be better for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua Huffman. This next question is for Jade Harris and Adam Campbell. We're going to start with Adam Campbell. This is from Lance Barton. Where should we start with affordable housing? Can zoning changes help affordable housing
where I've gotten the pleasure to speak to Lance on this topic, and I think what his organization, Habitat for Humanity, is doing is tremendous work, and I hope this next phase of development they have underway is a tremendous success and can be inspiration for other similar types of developments to help combat this issue. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier with my platform ideas of collaboration. Since it's not a localized issue, I see tremendous opportunity to do more at a regional level, and I'm registered and looking forward to the Staunton, Augusta, Waynesboro Housing Summit that's planned for next month. I think it's important for city leaders, community leaders, the industry experts, and nonprofit organizations to be together in the same room to talk about these issues, to have a better understanding of where everyone can do their part to help address it. So yeah, I'm fully support collaboration and trying to get a grasp about how we can address this issue. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam Campbell. Jade Harris.
So at the state level, when it comes to affordable housing, we have a different type of option. I propose allowing localities to institute a 5% stop measure against rent increases. So in 1 year, you can't raise the rent more than 5% if the locality so chooses to vote that way. Since Virginia's Dillon rule, we can't just make a blanket rule for the whole state. That would never pass. But, you know, if me and Adam work together and I say, Adam, we're giving localities the ability to say, you can't raise the rent more than 5% in a year, and Adam says, sure, that sounds great for Staunton, we can make that happen for Staunton. I just want to tell a somewhat personal story. So my partner used to live in these row houses on Prospect Street, and it was 2019, 2020 when she lived there. They were about $1,500 a month, already incredibly expensive, but when you're sharing it with like 3 roommates, she can make it happen. Now those same apartments, no improvements whatsoever, are over $2,000 a month. That's unacceptable. With that 5% cap, you can prevent things like that happening.
Thank you, Jade Harris. This next question is for Randall Wolf. It is from Karen Ross. Do you think it's possible to negotiate with Republicans on abortion legislation?
Yes, I think we have to be able to talk across the aisle and find common ground in some ways. That doesn't mean we back off from where we stand. Women's health care and abortion are critical elements. Women need the right to make a decision with their health care providers. And, you know, in talking to Republicans in general about this, I ask sometimes somebody that's maybe my age, you know, you have a daughter who's maybe pregnant, they already have their mother of two, and I say, you know, what would happen if your daughter was facing a problem pregnancy that may kill her, and the medical people are saying that to you? If they terminate the child in a reasonable time, to save that mother who's already a parent of two, I get the Republicans not sure what to do anymore. You get that conversation going. We need to expand access to the pills and medication, the drugs that do this. But yeah, we need to talk to our opponents and see if there's some common ground, not that we back away. This is an issue that we need to hold our ground and move it forward and protect women's rights to health care.
Thank you, Randall Wolf. This next question is for Jade Harris, Kathy Beery, and Joshua Huffman. Following the same theme of abortion, are you working with Secure Progress to stop the anti-choice extremist ban on abortions in Virginia, the last safe haven in the South? Starting with Joshua Huffman.
Okay. What was the name of the organization again?
Secure Progress.
Okay. Well, and this is the first time I've heard of that organization, so clearly I'm not working with them so what exactly was the question? I'm sorry? Is your priority to stop the proposed abortion ban by by Governor Youngkin? Oh, okay. All right. Well, so to the first part, yeah, no, I'm not working with them because I don't know of them. What I assume sets me apart from the other folks on the stage, I consider myself to be pro-life. I have worked with numerous organizations over the years to promote the pro-life cause. I believe one of the most important aspects of government is to protect the lives, liberties, and property of the people of Virginia. Certainly I can understand in many areas of life that what I do, say for example, if I want to go out and do some behavior you may not agree with, that's my right, and it's your right to do so likewise. But as I feel that a unborn child is still a child, it's important to protect them in the same way that you would protect, yes, protecting the mother is important as well. But once you make that choice to conceive a child, that child should have the same protection.
Everybody, please let the candidate speak.
Yes. Well, yes, no, and of course, obviously in situations where a mother has no choice in that matter, I don't believe someone should be forced to carry a child to term that did not make a choice like that. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Joshua Huffman. Kathy Beery.
As far as the organization that was mentioned, I'm not aware of that, but I graduated high school in 1974 when Roe v. Wade had become law. The other thing that happened at that point in time is we had birth control pills. We had options on how to prevent pregnancies that we could use. the amount of time that we spend fussing and fighting about abortion, which I think is nobody's business but the woman who is carrying that child, we keep focusing on that, and the Republicans use it as fodder, but what we really need to be doing, if we're going to talk across the aisle, we need to make sure that they are providing options to get birth control, to be able to be knowledgeable about their bodies, women's bodies and men's bodies, and how this happens. We've taken a lot of sex education out. We just need to allow women to have their own medical things to be private, and we need to make sure that all the options can be available to women that they need in order to have a pregnancy or not have a pregnancy.
Thank you, Kathy Beery. Jade Harris.
In regards to the first part of the question, I may be wrong, don't take this as gospel. I think Secure Progress did send me a little bit of money. Again, I may be wrong. But as for the rest of the question, and the previous question too, because I want to answer that as well, Roe has been settled for over 50 years. That's twice my lifespan. I've never known a world without Roe until Dobbs last year, and I think that's an incredible miscarriage of justice, the result of a packed Supreme Court, the result of 50 years of right-wing organizing while Democrats had their heads in the sand, and we knew this was coming. Why didn't we do anything to stop it? Well, that's why I'm here now, because again, I grew up having the protections of Roe, and now they're suddenly gone. I'm 25 years old. That's terrible. So to that end, I'm not working with Republicans on this because we already settled it. We want to keep the parameters set forth by Roe. We want to enshrine those parameters in the Constitution of Virginia. It's going to take 2 cycles, but we can do it. And we don't need Youngkin because he'll be gone by then. And I want to ensure everyone has the right to make their own decisions. It's not up to me. It's not up to anybody else in the State House. It's not up to Glenn Youngkin. It's about you and your body and your right to bodily autonomy because no one can tell you what to do with your body.
Thank you, Jade Harris. This next question is for Adam Campbell. Do we in Staunton have a master plan to mitigate climate change? Will you support a master plan? For examples, tree landscaping in parking like the library, solar panels on all new commercial buildings, burying power lines when streets are torn up, or for other reasons?
So we do not have anything in detail in terms of a master plan. There are references to sustainable energy ideas to battle climate change in our comprehensive plan and the goals of our comprehensive plan. Yeah, I would support additional policy absolutely in our city code. I think where it makes sense, you should take every opportunity possible, especially in public projects, to improve, do your part to improve the environment. Absolutely, solar panels should always be considered. I think there should always be a cost-benefit analysis to consider if it makes sense, especially for rehab uses, if the building can support it. But it should always be absolutely considered for any new construction from a city government building standpoint. I see tremendous potential also with just improving our stormwater system, improving runoff, improving flood control through less paving, implementing better designs for stormwater management, and capturing that water before it just ends up in a channelized flow. So yeah, I would totally be supportive of a better strategy for that to tackle that issue.
Thank you, Adam Campbell. This next question is for all of our candidates. We're going to start with Kathy Beery. What do you think about the Stop Big Solar signs?
This is what I think. So, I'll back up for just a second. I just went to New York City at the beginning of the summer, and I had not ever had a chance to be there to actually go sightseeing. And one of the coolest things I saw there was in the hotel's parking lot is all the cars were covered so that they were protected from the rain and stuff, but also that it was all solar panels everywhere. There are so many ways to have solar, and no, I find the signs not progressive. It's the solar farms, from what I understand, you can raise some animals on it that can be raised up enough. There are things you can do with that land as well as have it be solar. Can be beneficial for our bees and pollinators. I'm not sure what's behind this. I have some opinions about that. We'll keep to myself since they're not really, I can't pinpoint them for sure. I am a teacher. I do try to cite my sources. But I just feel like that's a little bit of a regressive idea with not having solar farms.
Thank you, Kathy Beery. Jade Harris.
Do y'all know what astroturfing is? Astroturfing is when outside agitators come in and try to make issues up and try to stop certain things that they believe don't belong, period, but it might not be their community. It might not even be their state. It might not even be their region. They might be coming in from Texas to tell landowners in Staunton, in Augusta County, in Waynesboro what they can and cannot do with their own property. It's, again, outside agitators causing issues, stopping property owners from doing what they want, from exploring new methods of energy collection, just because they don't like it. They think it's too liberal, it's too pansy. We should be drilling for oil and drilling for oil only, but it's not your land. At the end of the day, it's not their land. They can whine about it all they want, but you need to stop trying to tell property owners what to do with their land.
Thank you, Jade Harris. Adam Campbell.
So I'll have more experience than anyone up here on this issue since it's direct. Those signs are directly related to an item that the city considered from a special use permit to allow a solar farm on a piece of property in the ag-forestal district along Commerce Road. Of all my time, 6 years on Planning Commission, this was by far the longest application under consideration, the most conditions and review time by staff and the Planning Commission to make sure this project would be successful. I am a big fan of solar. It is a critical part of how we must produce energy moving forward. That may change over time as technologies change, but as of this moment, it is a critical part of how we need to strategize energy production. But from the Planning Commission side of things, I look at it from what makes sense based on the regulations and codes of our city. After reviewing the application, reviewing what the developer was putting forward in terms of making sure it's going to be properly done, additional landscaping, a pollinator program, it's going to improve stormwater runoff from that site from what it is beforehand as not prime farmland. It's not prime farmland. It's been used for cattle grazing for the past decades. And another important thing to remember is this is also an issue of landowner rights and development rights. That property sat for sale for years. If someone wanted to buy it to maintain the agricultural character, they could have. It was zoned industrial, and this is an opportunity for someone to make an investment in our city to provide a tax benefit, a possible energy savings benefit to our community, and to provide clean energy to feed the Dominion system. Thank you. No, I'm not sure who's behind it.
I'll give you a hint.
Thank you, Adam Campbell. Randall Wolf, why don't you go ahead?
What Jade said, AstroTurf, is absolutely true. This is a national organization that feeds into local projects to stir up trouble as part of it. But there is a few local people, and I will just say, I'm not going to name names, but one of those people that lives just outside of Stewart's Draft was the former corporate attorney for Texaco Oil, who helps considerably with the anti-solar propaganda in the Staunton, Waynesboro, and Augusta County area. I'm a strong proponent of solar energy. It's a landowner rights issue. So many people forget that you look right now at a field that's pasture grazing cattle or corn or soybean. They are some of the biggest polluters to our rivers, farming. So we have offset dollars to help clean up the Chesapeake Bay that costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars in these communities. Solar will help alleviate that pollution. Solar will provide over 12 times the property tax in Augusta County. So there's 700 acres of family farms that want to get solar on them out in Lyndhurst, Stewart's Draft. They currently pay about $24,000 in property tax. If they put solar on those fields, they'll pay over $250,000 to Augusta County. Essentially free money. There's no county expenses that come with that. Where you put 400 homes in there, you need to build a new school, you need to hire teachers, you have all these expenses that cost more than the property tax coming in. So it's free money. Solar is just the right thing to do. I mean, we need renewable energy. So those signs really bother me, to be honest, because they're propaganda, they're misinformation. I'll leave it at that. I heard the ring.
Thank you, Randall Wolf. Joshua Huffman.
Well, I have to tell you, actually, before driving here to Staunton tonight, I'd actually never seen one of those signs. As far as I know, we don't have them in Harrisonburg. So again, I'm learning about what the situation's all about, but you know, when I go through the district and I see people with solar panels on their house, you know, I think that's a great thing. I have some of my friends, you know, post pictures on Facebook of the power company actually paying them for power. And, you know, and of course the thing about solar is, unlike some other sources, it doesn't provide nearly the pollution that's out there. So again, I don't, but if a property owner in Staunton, Augusta County, wherever, wants to convert his property to collecting solar, I mean, what's wrong with that? Nothing as far as I can tell. I mean, again, it should be up to the property owner, and, you know, if someone wants to use their land to produce power, not only for themselves, but for their neighbors, I say more power to them.
Thank you, Joshua Huffman. This next question is for Jade Harris and Randall Wolf. If elected, what would or could you do to stop Youngkin's plan to pull Virginia out of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, assuming you support keeping Virginia in RGGI? Starting with Jade Harris. Jade Harris.
I definitely support keeping Virginia in RGGI, point blank period. Basically, as a member of the legislature, I would use every ability available to me as a member of that body to prevent Youngkin from getting us even further caught up with this, because it is illegal what he did. 100% point blank period. So I would work together with my colleagues in the Senate and in the House to ensure that we fix this error, that we hold Youngkin accountable, and we don't do it again.
Thank you, Jade Harris. Randall Wolf.
Pretty much what Jade just said. I mean, we just work within the Democratic caucus to get this back on track. You know, it's going to hurt us when we're trying to bring in a lot of businesses to develop here and to build here, locate here. They're not going to want to be a part of our state if we're not part of doing this. They realize the future better than Youngkin does, and we need to get back into the program and protect our environment.
Thank you, Randall Wolf. This next one is for Adam Campbell. Do you support putting solar panels on the new courthouse buildings in the West End?
I think I already addressed this one, but yes, absolutely.
This next question is for all of our candidates. What is the best thing and the worst thing you've heard on the campaign trail? Starting with Kathy Beery.
There have been a lot of really, really great things. I think one of the best things has been when I introduce myself and I say that I'm running as a Democrat and who I'm running against, and they go, "You got my vote." Immediately. They're just ready to have a change. The worst thing was, and it's really comical, actually. The worst thing that I heard when I was out canvassing, we were in a subdivision that has an HOA, and I left literature on the door and rang the bell because nobody came, anyway. So as I'm walking off, and this girl comes and she's like, "You're not supposed to solicit here." And I'm like, "No, ma'am, I'm a candidate, I'm running for office." And I went through my little spiel, and she's like, "Well, you're not supposed to be doing this." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, we can." So went on down to a couple more doors. These are some townhouses. And then she comes back out, and she yells at me again, "And what are you doing?" And she's on the phone, so I'm figuring that she's called the police. And I explain again. So went on and finished the rest of the row of the townhouses. And as we're coming back up, she pulls out an air horn on her balcony. And so air horns, it wasn't a great big one, but when you asked about the worst thing I heard, that was the air horn. And then as we cut the corner to go back to my car, she went on her back balcony and continued with the air horn there. If you're looking for something really bad being said, I've been really fortunate. People have disagreed with me, and I just very kindly say, you have a choice. And that is what a democracy is about. They have a choice of 3 people for the Senate in District 2. So I've managed to not be lambasted or treated ugly or anything like that. So the best has been, I've got your vote before they really know me, and then the worst was the air horn.
Thank you, Kathy Beery. Adam Campbell.
I don't really have a bad experience to share. It's been really positive so far. I've really enjoyed the opportunity just to engage with members of the community that I might not necessarily have had an opportunity to do so if I didn't run for city council. So it's been great to exchange new ideas with people, have different discussions, different perspectives that I might not be, coming from a different place. It's been very positive. I'd say the only frustrating thing that, it's not a lot, I'd say maybe 10% of the people I talk to, the very first question is, are you a Republican or a Democrat? And I'm truly running a nonpartisan campaign, and I'm just doing this to improve my community, taking the information at hand and making the best decision to serve our residents. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam Campbell. Joshua Huffman.
Well, no, the worst thing that I ever experienced as a candidate was actually 9 years ago when I ran for Harrisonburg City Council, when I actually met with some of my fellow candidates, and they made very specific threats of what they would do to me if I didn't drop out of the race. So I'm glad to say we have a much more amicable relationship. Nothing like that's happened. But probably the worst thing so far, of course, when I was collecting signatures to get on the ballot, I ran into a fellow, and I said who I was and what I was running for, and he said, "Well, no, I like Emmett Hanger." And I said, "Okay, that's great. He's not running, nor has he ever been the senator for Harrisonburg, except for that brief period when they put us all together." And he said, "Well, I don't care who you are. I'm going to vote for the Republican. It doesn't matter." And of course, wouldn't sign my petition just to even get me on the ballot. But the best thing is so many people, both actually have had Republicans and Democrats who have come up to me and say, thank you for running. I mean, there are Republicans who don't like Mark Obenshain, believe it or not, and certainly Democrats. And of course, I also want to thank Kathy Beery. She did actually sign my petition to get me on the ballot, which, I think is a great thing. Because again, we need more choices. So that's been my experience so far. I hope I don't have anything terrible to share in the future.
All right, thank you, Joshua Huffman. Randall Wolf.
I'll be honest, I don't have a worst experience. They're all opportunities to talk to people, talk to my neighbors. Again, as a former journalist, I went into all kinds of situations and had to talk and have conversations with people, and it's essentially all good. The best experience, to be honest, was 2 years ago at a fireman's carnival over in Nelson County, where I was talking to one of the volunteer firemen towards the end of the night, and he's like, you're a Democrat, I'm not going to vote for you. And I said, well, I want to understand where you live here. It's a community I don't know much about. So we started to talk. We talked for 45 minutes. And by the end, even talking abortion and gun control and all the issues that are on the table, he looked over at me sort of with a side eye and gave, I might just vote for you. So that was the best.
Thank you, Randall Wolf. Jade Harris.
So I actually can't pin down the best thing that's been said to me on the campaign trail, because it's been said to me so many times, over and over and over again. It's a combination of, I walk into a room and they're looking for the candidate, and I'm short, I wear silly little kid clothes, I do what I want, I don't look like, everyone's expecting Barack Obama, essentially. And they say, where's the candidate? And I say, that's me. And they're like, you're the candidate? And their expression just changes. It's love, it's adoration, it's excitement. And what we really need is excitement for our political system, for our candidates, and for hope and for the future. That's the best thing, hands down, that's ever been said to me on this campaign trail and really in my whole life. Just people excited that I'm there in the room wanting to talk to them and represent them. Now, hell yeah! Now, the worst thing that's ever been said to me is going to shock you. Can I have the little Chris Head sign, please? So this was at Buena Vista's Labor Day event. And the worst thing that you could say to me, as me being myself, when I say, no, I don't think I'd like to shake your hand, is,
and not doing anything to help our communities when we could work together is wrong. So that's one big thing. I want to work for problems. We pay our taxes to solve collaborative problems. And I'm not going to be the person who goes down and says no to everything. No to putting the checkbox on a form to have people be able to find insurance that don't have it, or no to taxing our big corporations. I'm probably about the most opposite person of Mark Obenshain that you could find.
Thank you, Kathy Beery. This next question is for Randall Wolf.
Excuse me, could I answer that one too, or not?
Sure, go ahead.
I just figured because
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, one big way I differ from Mark Obenshain is that I'm actually here tonight. And I'm here talking to you good people. And, we agree on some issues, we don't agree on some issues. But one thing that I pledge to do is that I will not say, vote Libertarian every single election, regardless of who's running. And that's what Mark Obenshain does with the Republican Party. He doesn't care really about most issues. I mean, in my opinion, he just wants to get as many Republicans in office as possible. And if you subscribe to his newsletters, which I do, and they're not the most fun to read, because that's all it is. As far as I can tell, he wants to be Senate Majority Leader, and as long as he have yes men in position to get him that position, that's all he cares about. And agree or disagree on certain issues, we need to have these conversations. And the fact that Mark Obenshain isn't even here to have them speaks volumes of his character, I think.
Thank you, Joshua Huffman. This next question is for Randall Wolf. While campaigning, have you learned something that changed your mind or caused you to take action?
Yeah, there's been a couple things. I mentioned the situation in Hershey 2 years ago, and the other thing that happened 2 years ago towards the end of the campaign was I started to talk to people that were landowners of land that Dominion had an easement on for the pipeline. And I talked to a couple other key people and got in touch with Senator Kane's office, who jumped into that issue. And before the campaign was over, in about 2 or 3 weeks, we had, I think, 14 landowners submit applications to get those easements given back to the landowners from Dominion. And Senator Kane's office thought this was going to be done. This was going to be easy. It took over a year before those easements were released back to the landowners. So that's something that wasn't on my radar until I was out talking to people. It came up, and I was able to take action and help get those landowner rights back. This was preventing them from putting in driveways, from building a barn, from selling their property, these easements. There's still a lot of landowners across Virginia that haven't gotten those easements taken back from Dominion. And that's something that I think a project like that may have easements for the public good, if it gets turned down, that within 2 years, those easements automatically should return back to the landowner, so you don't have to go through courts and hire lawyers to fight a big corporation like Dominion. So that's something that I'm proud of.
Thank you, Randall Wolf. This next question is for Jade Harris. Can you talk about what you are hearing from young voters? What is on their minds? What issues are important to them? What are your plans to address them?
So the cool thing about young voters is I'm also a young voter, and I hang out with them every day, and I work with them every day, and they're my people. It's my generation. Gen Z, by the way. Don't ever call me a millennial. I'm not that chuggy. Anyway. So what I'm hearing a lot from them is concern about the climate, first and foremost. The world is on fire, and they see it every day. When you grow up and you're used to certain things, but then suddenly the sky is gray, you can't breathe, just smoke and you're crying because there's so much smoke in the air. That's what really concerns young people, ensuring that they have a future to grow up in and have kids in. A lot of young people don't want to have kids because of such uncertainty about the future. Another thing that they're really concerned about is workforce development and having jobs. Some of them, once they graduate from college, myself included, couldn't find a job with benefits, such as health care, such as insurance. All of that is not there for us. We're being left behind by the generations before us, and that's another major concern. And this third concern is a little more on the silly side, but it's what I'm hearing left and right, and if you really want to reach the young voters, you need to start talking about marijuana. We've got to get that retail market set up because that's what they've come to expect. That's what we promised. Youngkin didn't deliver on it. He's ignoring the will of voters. We've got to go ahead and get it done so we have revenue, tax revenue, to get some of these programs instilled that we desperately need and to fulfill our promises.
Thank you, Jade Harris. This question is for Adam Campbell. What is more important for our city right now? Building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing/expanding our existing homes and storefronts?
Can I say all the above? No, I think there's a need for all those type of developments, and I think it's important for the city to be reactive and be able to adapt to the market and the developer's needs. If I'm going to have a decision between a brand new house and the rehab of the existing house, I will take the rehab of the existing house all day, every day. We've had tremendous success stories in the past 20 years in Staunton, just even right now as we speak, the Villages, the Staunton Steam Laundry, just tremendous historic buildings being brought back to life for residential and commercial space. But there's certainly a time for or a place for new home construction as well where it makes sense. We're not, part of the problem with solving the housing shortage, the housing affordability, is providing options for people to choose how they want to live. So, all the above.
Thank you, Adam Campbell. I would just like to reiterate how appreciative we all are that everybody came tonight. A big thank you once again to all of our candidates, the ones that showed up at least. At this point, we're going to give all of the candidates 3 minutes for closing statements, and then let's head home. Starting off, Jade Harris, again, candidate for Senate District Number 3.
I just want to thank you all again for coming out tonight, for participating in democracy. And I want to remind you all that early voting starts September 22nd, going through until Election Day, November 7th. There's a gap of a couple of days in there, but who's counting? Anyway, it's so critically important that you get out there and vote this year. Abortion rights are on the ballot. Virginia is the last state in the South that allows you to access an abortion without cumbersome restrictions. It's the last state that follows the parameters set forth by Roe. That's why it's so critical that you get out there and defeat Governor Glenn Youngkin's agenda and ensure that he's a lame duck for the remainder of his term, unless you would like to see him running for the White House in 2028. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade Harris. Kathy Beery, again, candidate for Senate District 2.
Yes, thank you guys for your time and for listening to us. I just need to reiterate the difference between Mark Obenshain and I, because this is what Jade was talking about. One, we do not need the state practicing medicine without a license. They need to stay out of our bedrooms. They need to stay out of our doctor's offices. And again, I will not, require women to go to the police department and report a miscarriage within 24 hours. And I will not be proposing oh yes, he did it twice. He tried to get that legislation done. And I will not be proposing any kind of invasive medical procedures either. So yeah, That is something he did.
Thank you, Kathy Beery. Joshua Huffman, candidate for Senate District 2.
Well, I do want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Again, many of you probably haven't heard libertarians before. I'm glad you had the opportunity to do so. And I think it's important to have these sorts of conversations. For many years, I was the head of a libertarian group in Harrisonburg, and party labels didn't really matter to us. We've had many people come speak to our group. Most recently, we had Delegate Tony Welt. We've had Jennifer Lewis, Ben Klein, yes, Sam Rasool. And speaking of Sam Rasool, of course, I'm someone who likes to work with other people regardless of their party affiliation. And of course, as you may recall, Delegate Rasool ran for lieutenant governor 2 years ago. And of course, Delegate Rasool is great when it comes to ballot access. And so I actually said, I think Delegate Rasool would make a good lieutenant governor. And the former chairman of the Staunton Republican Party, who used to be my friend, as soon as I said that, and he treated me as if I'd, I don't know what, but it was awful. I mean, I actually had to, stop communicating with him on Facebook, which is unfortunate. I mean, at the end of the day, compromise is not a dirty word, nor should it ever be. And we need to have these conversations. Am I everything for all the people here tonight? Of course not. But on the other hand, can I reach voters in ruby red parts of the district that may just say, well, I'm not going to vote for someone who disagrees on certain issues? I believe so. And so, whether or not you support me or you support one of the other candidates, I think it's important to continue to have these conversations, and I do appreciate y'all hosting me. I sincerely wish that our state senator would have shown up tonight. I'm very disappointed, but not surprised that he hasn't. So thank you.
Thank you, Joshua Huffman. Randall Wolf, candidate for 36th Delegate District.
I just want to thank you all for coming out and participating in democracy. I've loved the questions. As a former journalist, it really hits home. Democracy really is on the ballot this year. We need to protect women's rights. We need to protect everyone's rights. And that's what this election is really about. And we need to have a strong Democratic turnout and make a statement of where we are in Virginia, that we are one of the only, sort of the last holdout in the South to protect all those rights. And that's what's on the ballot. I know that we're all a little weary from the politics of the last couple of years. I know that a lot of us are focused on the election in 2024 for president. But this election for state and some local races is just critical to our future. So thanks again for your interest, and tell your friends.
Thank you, Randall Wolf. Finally, we have Adam Campbell, candidate for Staunton City Council.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank the Staunton Democratic Committee for hosting and inviting me here to participate tonight. I've really enjoyed this opportunity. I want to leave you with Staunton's current vision in the comprehensive plan is a culturally rich historic city with an exciting future of innovation, growth, and resiliency. And I like that vision. I think we do have a tremendous future. I want to go back to on city council, I would really focus on where local government can make quality of life improvements within the public realm, supporting our schools. We have an amazing parks and rec system, but we can do more. We can implement our greenway and bike and pedestrian plan to improve connectivity and accessibility around the city. And by doing that, it makes our city more attractive to younger families to bring in more people to our city. That's even more possible now with just the technology advances of the past few years related to the pandemic and being able to work remotely. So I want to continue the success of our downtown, but I want to expand that success outwards With proper planning and investment, we can see thriving mixed uses along our entrance corridors, supported by flourishing neighborhoods that are healthy, and people are excited to come to this community. I'm kind of unique in where I'm running for one-year term. I think if I am elected, we've seen a trending upward in how the cooperation of our city council over recent years, especially after the last election. I'm committed to continuing that trend going upwards. And I think, as I said before, I think I can make an immediate impact on helping, with my knowledge, helping to improve communications with the city, of really be able to coordinate better and encourage public participation in the local decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you once again to the Clock Tower for hosting us. Thank you to the Staunton Democrats for setting this up. Thank you to our timekeeper, Barbara, over here, for keeping time. Thanks to all of you for being here, and thank you to all of our candidates for sharing your perspective on why you will be the best for Virginia. Best of luck on the campaign trail, and everyone have a good evening.
Because it's all